बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। छठी अलामत उलमाए आखिरत की यह है कि फ़तवा सादिर करने में जल्दी न करे, मसला बताने में बहुत एहतियात करे, हत्तल वुसा, अगर कोई दूसरा अहल हो तो उसका हवाला कर दे। The Shaykh al-Hadith Manzakir rahmatullah alayh, he mentions that the sixth sign of the ulama of the akhirat is that in giving fatwas or issuing statements or giving masla masail, they do not hasten. Masla batane mein bahut ehtiyat kare, and they're extremely cautious in showing maslas or explaining maslas. Hatta al-wusa, agar koi dusra ahl ho, and if it's at all possible, if there's somebody else who is present, who is capable of giving a fatwa or explaining the masla, to uska hawala kar de, then they don't take the responsibility themselves, they pass on the responsibility to the other person. And this is an indication of their carefulness in explaining maslas or issues relating to fiqh and any other dini issues. Abu Hafs Nisaburi rahmatullah alayhi कहते हैं कि आलिम वो है. Abu Hafs says that the alim is that person कि जो मसले के वक्त उससे खौफ करता हो कि कल को क़यामत में ये जवाब दही करना पड़ेगी. That the alim is that person who at the time of explaining a masla, he has fear of the day of reckoning, that on the day of reckoning he will need to explain this. कि कहाँ से बताया था, in that he will be asked what is the reference for this. बाज़ उलमा ने कहा है कि सहाबा किराम रिज़वानुल्लाहि तआला अजमईन ने चार चीज़ों से बहुत एतराज़ करते थे. Some of the ulama say that the Sahaba used to abstain from four things. Imamat karne se, from becoming the imam, because if their salah is not correct, then the salah of the people behind them would not be correct, and that's a great responsibility. Wasi banne se, yani kisi ki wasiyat mein maal wagera taqsim kare, yani taking the responsibility of distributing a person's inheritance, etc. That's a big responsibility. Every single penny and every single pie should be distributed in the correct way. Amanat rakne se, to keep a trust, again it's the hukuk al-ibad, or fatwa dene se, and to give a fatwa. Unga khususi mashghala पांच चीज़ें थी. He says that their special focus was five things: Quran Pak ki tilawat, recitation of the Quran, masajid ka abad karna, to inhabit the masjid, Allah Ta'ala ka zikr, achhi baat, Allah ka zikr, and to make the dhikr of Allah Almighty, achhi baaton ki nasiyat karna, to advise of good things, and buri baaton se rokna, and to prevent people from bad things. Ibn Hasin rahmatullah alayhi कहते हैं कि बाज़ आदमी ऐसे जल्दी फतवा सारे करते हैं कि वो मसला अगर हज़रत उमर रज़ियल्लाहु ताला के सामने पेश होता तो सारे बदर वालों को इकट्ठा करके मशवरा करते. Ibn Hasin rahmatullah alayhi says that some people hasten in giving fatwa, that if this masla is then presented to Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, then he would amalgamate all of the Sahaba who were alive at the time and who participated in the Battle of Badr, and to take the advice. And this was the care with which the companions actually dealt with when giving fatwa and masla masail. Sometimes the ulama, if they might, sometimes some people of knowledge might be asked a question and they feel ashamed that they don't know the answer, so they just blurt something out. So it's about the care and the consideration they take and the cautiousness that they take on that particular issue, that they don't hasten to give the fatwa. If they don't know the masla, then refer back to the kitabs. So this is one of the signs of the ulama of akhirat. As Anas radiallahu ta'ala itne jaleel qadr sahabi hai कि 10 बरस Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam khidmat की. As Anas radiallahu ta'ala is a great sahabi who spent 10 years serving and doing khidmat of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. जब इनसे मसला दरियाफ्त किया जाता, when he would be asked a question, तो फरमाते कि मौलाना अल-हसन रहमतुल्लाह अलैहि से दरियाफ्त करो. Whenever he was asked a question, he would say, and Moulana Hassan rahmatullah alayhi se dariyaft karo. Ask Moulana Hassan rahmatullah alayhi, Yaza Hassan Basri rahmatullah alayhi, and this is reference to Hassan Basri rahmatullah alayhi, who was a very famous faqih and a famous Sufi and a famous tabi'i. Hazrat Anas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu बावजूद sahabi hone ke in tabi'i ka naam batate. Hazrat Anas radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, in spite of being a companion, he would refer back to this person, this Hassan Basri rahmatullah alayh, who wasn't a companion but he was actually a tabi'i. Over here, Hazrat Shaykh rahmatullah alayh, he writes Moulana al-Hasan. So the actual Arabic of Ihya al-Ulumuddin, inside there, the wording is actually Moulana Hassan. And in fact, there's another reference which we found somewhere, that Imam Ghazali rahmatullah, he's used the word Maulana, but other Mashaykh have also used the exact verbatim word that was used at the time was Maulana, which is a dalil and a proof in itself for using the word Maulana to refer to the ulama, which sometimes some people there is an objection to, but this is one of the early precedents for that. Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu se jab masla daryaf kiya jata, and as Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu ta'ala anhu will be asked a question, हालांकि वो मशहूर sahabi और रईसुल मुफस्सिरीन है, was known as, was a very famous companion, and he was the head of the mufassirin, those that did tafsir of the Quran. तो वो फरमाते कि Jabir bin Zayd, he would say, go to Jabir bin Zayd rahmatullah alayh, जो अहले फतवा ताबिई है, who was a tabi'i but he also was accomplished in giving fatwas, उनसे दरियाफ्त कर लो, go and ask him. As Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhuma खुद बड़े मशहूर फ़क़ीह सहाबा रदियल्लाहु ta'ala anhu है, and likewise Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, a very famous companion who's also a faqih. Some of the companions, many thousands of companions were there, but some certain companions were known for their fiqh. They were ulama in them, great ulama within the companions. As Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu ta'ala was known for this, and whenever he was asked a question, Hazrat Sa'id bin Musayyib rahmatullah alayh par hawala farma dete. Then he would tell people to go and ask Sa'id bin Musayyib rahmatullah alayh, who was a tabi'i. सातवीं अलामत उलमाए आखिर की यह है कि उसको बातिनी इल्म यानी सुलूक का अहतिमाम बहुत ज़्यादा हो. The seventh sign of the ulama of the akhir is that they have a great focus on the inner science, यानी the science of the heart, सुलूक. अपनी इस्लाह बातिन इस्लाह क़ल्ब में बहुत ज़्यादा कोशिश करने वाला हो. They try extremely hard in purifying the inner self and purifying the heart. कि ये उलूम ज़ाहिरिया में भी तरक्की का ज़रिया है. Why? Because if the inner self is purified, then this will also help them progress in the outer knowledge. So the ulama, they differentiate the knowledge that we receive we receive from our deen into two categories: the ulum zahir, ulum batil, Quran, hadith, fiqh, aqidah. All of these things, mu'amalat and marshal, all fall under the ulum zahiriyah. But at the same time, there's another type of knowledge which is knowledge of the heart, and they say that the ulama of the akhir are those who not just focus on the ulum zahir, but they also focus on the heart. Why? Because progression, drawing close to Allah Almighty, is in the ulum zahir, the outer ulum, and the knowledge is through purifying the heart. Huzur sallallahu alaihi wasallam ka irshad paak hai, jo apne ilm par amal kare. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that whoever acts upon their knowledge, Allah Ta'ala shan usko aisi cheezon ka ilm farmate hai jo usne nahi pari. That Allah Almighty shall give him knowledge of those things which he didn't study. This is the barakat of doing action upon everything a person knows. पहले अंबिया की किताबों में है कि ए बनी इसराइल, it's mentioned in the books of the prophets of before that ओ बनी इसराइल तुम ये मत कहो कि उलूम आसमान पर है. Don't say that the knowledge is on the heavens. उनको कौन उतारे? That who shall make it descend onto the earth? या वो ज़मीन की जड़ों में है, or that is buried in the roots of the ground. उनको कौन ऊपर लाए? Who shall dig it out? या वो समंदरों के पार है, that they're inside the oceans. कौन उन पर गुजरे? Who's going to come across them ताकि उनको लाए so that they can bring them out? उलूम तुम्हारे दिलों के अंदर है. Knowledge is inside your hearts. तुम मेरे सामने रूहानी हस्तियों के आदाब के साथ रहो. Remain with me with the etiquettes of those who are spiritual. सिद्दीकीन के अखलाक को इख्तियार करो. Adopt the ways and the akhlaq and the habits of those who are known as Siddiq, the truthful ones. यानी truthful, sincere in their connection to Allah Almighty. मैं तुम्हारे दिलों में से उलूम को ज़ाहिर कर दूंगा. I shall allow knowledge to come out from your hearts. यानी इल्म लदूनी. यहाँ तक कि वो उलूम तुमको घेर लेंगे, to such an extent that this knowledge shall encompass you completely, और तुमको ढांक लेंगे, and it shall cover you. और तजुर्बा भी उसका शाहिद है, and experience also is witness to this, कि अहलुल्लाह को अल्लाह ताला शान वो उलूम मारिफ अता फरमाते हैं, that the अहलुल्लाह, the people of Allah, Allah Almighty gives them such knowledge and He gives them such realities कि किताबों में तलाश से भी नहीं मिलते, that by searching and looking inside books they cannot even find this. हुज़ूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम का पाक इरशाद जिसको अल्लाह ताला से नकल फरमाते हैं कि मेरा बंदा किसी ऐसी चीज़ के साथ मुझसे तक़र्रुब हासिल नहीं कर सकता जो मुझे ज़्यादा महबूब हो उन चीज़ों से जो मैंने उस पर फ़र्ज़ किए. नबी करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम says that my slave cannot come close to me by way of anything that is more beloved to me than those things which I have made farz upon him. जैसा कि नमाज, ज़कात, रोज़ा, हज वगैरह, such as namaz, ज़कात, रोज़ा, फास्टिंग, हज एक्सेट्रा, यानी जितना तकर्रुब फ़राइज़ के अच्छी तरह अदा करने से हासिल होता है, that the proximity and closeness to Allah Almighty that can be acquired by completing the फ़राइज़, ऐसा तकर्रुब, such proximity दूसरी चीज़ों से नहीं होता, cannot be acquired through other things. और बंदा नवाफिल के साथ भी मेरे साथ तकर्रुब हासिल करता रहता है. And Allah Almighty says that the slave also grows close to me through the performance of nafal ibadat, यहाँ तक कि मैं उसको महबूब बना लेता हूँ, until such a point that I make him my beloved. और जब मैं उसको महबूब बना लेता हूँ, and I make him my beloved, तो मैं उसका कान बन जाता हूँ जिससे वो सुनता है. I become his ears by which he hears, उसकी आँख बन जाता हूँ जिससे वो देखता है. I become his eyes by which he sees, और उसका हाथ बन जाता हूँ जिससे वो किसी चीज़ को पकड़ता है. I also become his hands by which he holds things, और उसका पाँव बन जाता हूँ. And I become his feet, जिससे वो चलता है, by which he walks. अगर वो मुझसे सवाल करता है, if he asks me something, तो मैं उसको पूरा करता हूँ, I complete it. और वो किसी चीज़ से पनाह चाहता है, and if he takes refuge in anything, तो उसको पनाह देता हूँ, then I give him refuge in that. यानी उसका चलना फिरना, देखना, सुनना, I become his walking, I become his walking around, going around, सुनना, listening, सब काम मेरी रज़ा के मुताबिक हो जाते. Everything he does becomes in accordance with the pleasure and the will of Allah Almighty. बाज़ हदीसों में उसके साथ ये मज़मून भी आया. In some hadith the topic is also mentioned कि जो शख्स मेरे किसी वली से दुश्मनी करता है, that a person who has enmity to a wali of mine, वो मुझसे ऐलान जंग करता है, then he has announced and he has declared war against me. और चूँकि औलिया अल्लाह का गौर व फिक्र सभी अल्लाह ताला शान के साथ वाबस्ता हो जाता है, and because when a person, the walis of Allah, the friends of Allah, the buzurgs, the mashayikh, their thinking and what they think and how they behave, it all becomes connected to Allah. इसी वजह से कुरान पाक के दकीक उलूम के कुलूब पर मुनकशिफ हो जाते हैं. And because of this, some very fine and refined knowledge of the Quran and Hadith unveils in their heart. उसके असरार उन पर वाज़िर हो जाते हैं. The secrets become clear to them. बिलखुसूस ऐसे लोगों पर जो अल्लाह ताला शान के ज़िक्र और फ़िक्र के साथ हर वक्त मशगूल रहते हैं. And this specifically happens to those people who at all times remain in meditation in the dhikr of Allah Almighty. और हर शख्स को उसमें हस्ब तौफीक इतना हिस्सा मिलता है जितना कि अमल में उसका एहतिमाम. And people receive in accordance to their actions, और उसकी कोशिश होती है, and how much they try. हज़रत अली रज़ी अल्लाह ताला ने एक बड़ी तवील हदीस में उलमाए आखिर का हाल बयान फरमाया है. हज़रत अली रज़ी अल्लाह ताला अन्हु, in a very lengthy hadith, he's explained the ulama of the hereafter, जिसको इब्न क़य्यिम रहमतुल्लाह ने मिफ्ताह दारुस सआदा और अबू नुईम ने हिल्यतुल औलिया में ज़िक्र फरमाया है, which has been mentioned by Ibn Qayyim in his book Miftahu Dar as-Sa'ada, the key to the abode of happiness. Or Abu Nu'aym is mentioned in his book Al-Hilya, and Al-Hilya to Awliya, the description of the ulama, of the awliya. इसमें फरमाते हैं कि कुलूब बिमंज़िल बर्तन के है. The hearts are like vessels. और बेहतरीन कुलूब वो है, and the best of hearts are those जो खैर को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा महफूज रखने वाले हैं, which contain as much as possible goodness. इल्म जमा करना माल के जमा करने से बेहतर है. To gather knowledge is better than gathering wealth. कि इल्म तेरी हिफाजत करता है. Why knowledge protects you, और माल की तुझको हिफाजत करनी पड़ती है. And wealth on the other hand, you have to protect it. इल्म खर्च करने से बढ़ता है. By spending knowledge, spreading knowledge, then it increases. और माल खर्च करने से कम होता है. And by spending your wealth, it decreases. माल का नफ़ा उसके ज़ाहिर होने पर से ख़त्म हो जाता है. The benefit of wealth ends when it finishes. लेकिन इल्म का नफ़ा हमेशा हमेशा बाकी रहता है. But the benefit of knowledge remain with you for and ever. आलिम के इंतकाल से भी ख़त्म नहीं होता. By the passing away of the alim, knowledge does not end. कि उसके इरशादात बाकी रहते हैं. His words remain. फिर हज़रत अली रज़ी अल्लाह ताला ने एक ठंडा सांस भरा. And then हज़रत अली रज़ी अल्लाह ताला took a long sigh, and he said कि मेरे सीने में उलूम है. In my chest is knowledge. काश इसके अहल मिलते. If only I could find the people worthy of it. मगर मैं ऐसे लोगों को देखता हूँ. But I see such people जो दीन के असबाब को दुनिया तलबी में खर्च करते हैं. जो दीन के असबाब को दुनिया तलबी में खर्च करते हैं. Who spend deen and the knowledge of deen in the seeking of dunya. या ऐसे लोगों को देखता हूँ. Or he either said, I see such people जो लज्जतों में मुनहमिक है. I see such people who are engrossed in the pleasures of the world. शहवतों की जंजीरों में जकड़े हुए हैं. such people who are tied down or who've been imprisoned in the chain of shahwat and his desires, ya mal ke jama karne ke piche pare hue, or there's such people who are who are involved in gathering wealth. Arz ye tawil mazmoon jiske chand fikre yahan naqal kiye hai. And then Hazrat Shaykh Rahmatullah alayhi said, it's a very lengthy topic, and we've just mentioned a bit of that there. So the sixth sign of the ulama is that they don't hasten to give fatwa. And you see this on YouTube often. People give wrong fatwas very quickly, very hasten to give fatwas. And that's something that person, if you were to do tatbiq, or you were to apply these rules to allow the people that claim to have knowledge or claim to be ulama on social media, you'd find that it doesn't really always apply. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone, but the 12 signs of the ulama is actually a list and a criteria to help us identify who the ulama of the akhirat is, who should be followed. And the seventh sign is that the ulama of the akhirat are those who focus not just on the ulum al-zahir, the outer ulum, but they also focus on themselves, and not only on their inner self, and rectifying themselves, drawing close to Allah Almighty, and building a connection. And they say that by building a connection to Allah Almighty, then the ulama's ilm would further increase. Allah give all ulama and all non-ulama the tawfiq to act upon this. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah we'll be zikr for about a few minutes, and then that's the end of it. Inshallah we'll carry on next week. Jazakallah khair. Inshallah, the dhikr that we're doing here right now for a few minutes will be zikr at-targhibi, which is only for this majlis. One tasbih illallah, inshallah, one tasbih la ilaha illallah, one tasbih illallah, and one tasbih Allah. So before the dhikr, clear the heart out from anything aside from Allah Almighty, with your eyes shut, pray Qul Huwallah, and give the salat sawab to the mashayikh. And then we'll begin the dhikr of La ilaha illallah. So I'll go over that in a few seconds. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Qul huwallahu ahad. Mashaykh said that the hadith says Afdalu dhikr La ilaha illallah, that the best of dhikr is La ilaha illallah, which is a very strong and heavy dhikr. You focus on the heart. You're taken out with La ilaha illallah. You say La ilaha, there's no one worthy of worship except for Allah. So you're taking all the dirt out of the heart, and then you bring illallah into the heart, and only Allah into the heart. Inshallah, we do that loudly for one tasbih, inshallah. Ladies at home can do it quietly, inshallah. Bismillah. La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. La ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah, 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 لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وأزواجه وأتباعه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. لا إله إلا الله 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 سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله تبارك وتعالى عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وأزواجه وأتباعه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. لا إله إلا الله 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 سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا وشفيعنا وسندنا ومولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. إلا الله 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 لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. الله 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 Allah, 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 Allah. لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا ومولانا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأهوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك على الدرجات وتبلغنا بأقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات إنك على كل شيء قدير. إن شاء الله next week again. جزاك الله خير. السلام عليكم.